Alright, welcome back here to Driving with Fred, where we're here to inspire you to build your internet business and have a great life. And I'm here with Josh. Josh, you and I have known each other for quite a while. Josh is my personal trainer, and he's actually an amazing internet business builder. And we're here to talk about one of the businesses that he built, and he's going to share some really amazing insights with you. So the first thing, Josh, just for our listeners here, what was the problem that you solved with your business?
Okay, so the problem that I solved was I identified that I have a deep love for real Christmas trees. And so growing up as a kid, Christmas wasn't Christmas without having a real Christmas tree in the house. And as I grew a little bit older, I actually ended up working for a guy who sold Christmas trees and doing home deliveries for him. And this was when I was like 16 years old. And so I was always around Christmas trees, loved the product. I had the foundation of it was a real passion for the product. But I realised and did as much research as I could, I found out that no one in Australia was actually selling Christmas trees on the internet.
Right, cool. So selling Christmas trees on the internet, that's really the problem.
Yeah.
And then, do you want to tell us the story?
The problem was actually the belief that the Christmas trees could be sold on the internet. Because it was something that hadn't been done before.
Right.
Because people were selling Christmas presents and Christmas tree sales before I sort of changed it was that it was all about go to the fruit shop, go to the florist, go to the physical place, actually pick it up, put it in your car.
Scaffold.
Scaffold, all that sort of stuff. So there was no dedicated service or service offering for Christmas tree home delivery.
Right.
And so that's where I said, okay, cool. How can I solve that?
And so when you did that, so you looked at that, that's the problem, and then obviously you made a test business. Yeah. Tell us the story of how you went about doing that, like what happened?
Okay, so first and foremost, I'd highly recommend real world experience with your product before you dive into something. So I actually had experience with Christmas trees. I knew what a good tree was, what a bad tree was. I wasn't jumping in the deep end of an industry that I didn't know anything about. And so the next step was realizing that, if I wanted to test this idea, I had to take a leap of faith. I had to take the first step, and I had to sort of, realize, sort of take the first step and just sort of experiment and see what was possible. So when I think I was like 19 or 20 years old, I basically told my old boss, that sort of called me every year saying, hey Josh, I need you to do the tree, you're going to do the Christmas trees for me again. I basically told him that I wasn't interested. And I sort of took a huge risk, and I actually went out on my own and actually contacted the grower myself and purchased 150 Christmas trees.
Wow.
Which doesn't sound like a lot of trees, but a Christmas tree is a 6-foot tree. It's a huge.
Like you, Josh.
It's basically a person, and it's huge, and it weighs about 20 odd kilos, and it's a serious thing. And so me and a good friend of mine had this. I basically approached him and I said, "Hey, I've got this idea for this business, and it's going to be really great, and this is what we're going to do, and blah 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 blah." And he sort of he's a very good guy, and he basically sort of trusted me on faith that this was going to work because I told him I had experience on it. So at this point, just wanted to highlight that I knew that I wanted to build a website on how to sell Christmas trees, but I had absolutely no technical experience on how to sell Christmas trees.
Yeah.
Like I'm talking like I didn't know I didn't know what a web browser was. I didn't know what coding was. That was all too hard. That was just, I had no idea. So what I sort of realized was that I've got to build some sort of web presence for people to order online. So what I did was I basically built a very basic one-page website, like a one-page website with just the information people need to make a decision. So like inform them to a point of decision, and then the ability to actually place an order on the page. And you have just some Christmas tree photos, and that's about it. Like if I bring up an image of the Christmas tree site now, like I'm not going to win a design award. Like,
no awards, Josie.
No awards. But I knew that it did, even though it didn't look great, it functioned and it delivered on its purpose. And so what I did was I put that out into the world, and I started marketing that online, and I actually got a really great response from people who actually really wanted to purchase Christmas trees online. And me and my friend of mine actually sold out of those. We bought 150 Christmas trees, and a week later we were sold out.
Right.
And so we was at that point we sort of really took notice, and we were like, whoa, this could be a serious thing here. I mean,
so 150 trees, you just move them.
Just move them. Full disclosure, we were working like a crazy. We were working like this was not a part-time thing. We were seriously working every day, dawn till late at night, delivering, picking them up, going to the farm. It was a complete, we were operating the business completely from start to finish. But what it taught me was that you have to take a leap of faith, and you have to be willing to test things. And at that point, buying those huge block of trees was really sort of daunting, and like, oh, is this going to work? We were sort of 50-50 on it. And to my friend's credit, I mean, if he was here now, I'd give him a big hug, because he was a huge support and because you need, so many people, when I told them I wanted to do this, there were so many people who said I couldn't do it. Right. And there was so many people said that, it couldn't be done. No, people want to see the Christmas trees, and people want to touch it and feel it. And for me, having that really positive response sort of really, gave me the courage to keep on expanding and doing more and more every year. And so from there, we basically every single year, up till two years ago, we basically sold Christmas trees on the internet.
Right. And you took it further than that as well, didn't you?
We took it further than that, actually. We actually
So you took your experiment.
Yeah.
You made a success. You made a profit.
Yeah.
And then
to be
you
honest
came back and you went.
This might be brutally honest. This is the brutal truth. When we went and bought the trees, we both said to each other, "This is embarrassing, but how many trees have we got to sell for us not to lose money?"
That's a great idea.
Like, if we just bought, we had this stock and we knew how much it cost us, and we knew how much we were selling it for, and we were like, this is the line in the sand where we're like, we don't lose money. And so that was our okay, cool, now we've broken even, now the rest is gravy and whatever, on top of the cream, and so once we got past that point of breaking even, we sort of okay, this has been tested now, this is proven, we can do this. And so from years after that, it was just more of an expansion of a proven idea. And as we progressed, we got to the point basically every single year where on the last week before Christmas we were sold out. And the great thing about Christmas trees is that people who buy Christmas trees next year. And so it becomes like that.
So that's the thing you learned as well, that journey.
Yeah.
And how big a change did you make from when you got that first business and you want to make that improvement? How big incremental improvements did you make? How much, the website itself, how much change did you need?
Well, I think my first mistake was trying to make it perfect. And without just putting it out there and testing it, because you have this idea of what the website's supposed to be like, and you have this idea that if I get 100 people to my website, so many people are going to buy. You have all these numbers in your head, but in reality, it's complete fantasy until you go out and test it.
Right. And
so what I did was I basically, from the early as I can remember, I started measuring everything. I remember I'm not technical. My background is health and fitness, and so I came to this with sort of a very non-technical background. So for me, it was just about managing the numbers and seeing how the numbers grow, and if I change this, what happens to the numbers. So it was sort of like almost a
test and learn.
Yeah, test and learn. It was the idea that we both agreed on when we did the website is the idea of falling forward. And so we're going to stuff up, we're going to make a mistake, but if we're doing something to make the business better, we're always going to be falling forward.
Yeah.
And so that idea is something we always sort of led with, and we sort of got the business to a point where we were really happy with it, and it was
just clocking over.
Yeah, it was just clocking over.
And so just incremental improvements.
Incremental improvements. Here's the thing that sort of made us realise what was the little. It basically comes down to all the little things that stack up and do it right. I was actually talking to him 2 days ago, and we were laughing about it. And he said that it's the little things that hold the big things together. It's like my brother recently went to IKEA and bought some furniture, and you bring it home and it's this big box, right? And it looks impressive and daunting. And you open it up and you put it together, and you realise that all these big pieces are held together with these little bolts. And so it's the little things that hold the big things together, and that's something that I really reflect on. And so people are looking for this big win and this big, what if how do I double visitors? How do I double conversions? How do I double this, double that? It's like, where can I improve 2%?
2%.
Where can I increase 5%? How can I make that customer rave about me? Where's the little wins that I can do? Because if you stack those little wins, anything's possible.
That's brilliant. Josh, tell us, as you're a non-technical person, how did you overcome that fear and that anxiety around technology and those kind of things? And how did you overcome that? And how did you, if you were to boil it down to 3 sort of simple tips, like what would you suggest?
I think if I was to had my time again and do it again, and if I was almost, because people ask me all the time, how do I build a website? What do I do? What's the tips you would give me? And the first thing I always tell people is this. I'll tell you 3 insights and key takeaways that would really help you to start off with. What you've got to understand is the fundamentals always stay the same. The tactics may change, like there's a new software, piece of software, there's a new gadget, there's a new website that's popular, but the fundamentals will always stay the same. And there's basically 3 fundamental truths about digital marketing that always will be the same and will never change, and it's almost a 3-step process. Almost like a 3-step process to having beginner's luck when you start this thing, because it's this ocean of uncertainty.
Yeah.
So the first step in this process is really realizing what to focus on. And so what my focus in the beginning was about, how do I make it perfect? How do I make this idea of mine, this shiny diamond that I push out into the world? And so for my first piece of advice I would give is, focus on progress, not perfection. And so I know you want it to be perfect, and I know you've got these big dreams for it, and I know what's possible, and we understand that, but how can we deliver? So your website sells a product, or your website solves a problem, or whatever that problem is, you've got this huge list of things you want your website to do, but if there was a minimum list of things your website could do, like almost a minimum viable product that you push out into the world, what would that look like? And how quickly could we create that? So the thing is, people build websites, and they sort of go into like a little igloo by themselves and create this perfect thing without pushing it into the world. And what all you want is just incremental progress. So it's just those little ordinary things you change every day that create those extraordinary results on your site. So it's like,
it's not that big design.
So I completely rechanged my design. I've got a new logo. I've got this. I've got that. It's not that. It's how do I make my shopping cart that little bit better? How do I
increase the button size? Tweak the headline, or
something like that. And it's that idea of changing one thing at a time so you can accurately test it. And it's just the idea that it's not going to be perfect when you begin, because there's this idea that I sort of subscribed to really early when I started building websites, is that people are really familiar with the idea of a knight in shining armor. And what I've sort of realized is my takeaway is that a knight in shining armor is a man that's never had his metal truly tested. And so this shiny ball you've got in your head is not what you want it to be. You want something that's been tested and that's gone through the elements, that's a sort of field test, like it's battle ready, like it's something that's had direct feedback on, because what happens is you fall in love with your website, and what you really should be doing is fall in love with your customer. And so you sort of, until it's tested, it's not really an idea, like it's just it's something internally with you, because you've got these outcomes that you want to do. You want to make money, or you want to
Get lots of traffic,
or whatever your outcome is.
Yeah.
But
subscribers,
but
donations.
But you've got to fall in love with what the customer's outcome is, and then I honestly believe that customer feedback is almost like the school books of business, and so you listen to what they're saying to you. Oh, that's good, that's bad, change this, change that, and you can actually make real changes, because when you're at the beginning, you sort of make changes for the sake of them.
Yeah.
And then instead of what you just want to get your head around is stop making changes and start making informed decisions.
Yeah.
And so that's really the first thing that I would say to someone is, don't focus on perfection.
Just get something out there.
Focus on progress. Just get something out there.
Yeah.
And step 2 is like the most common mistake I see people make, or the common misconception or roadblock I see people make, is use your brain before you use your wallet. And so people have this idea that if they need to build a website, they need a fancy designer, and they need to spend $1,000 on a logo, and they need a $5,000 on a design, and they need the best shopping cart, and they need all this different stuff. Like people come to me and they say, oh Josh, I've got this website idea, and I've got $5,000 to build it. And I say, great. And the first thing I always say is that, what would it look like if you only had $500?
Nice. Great.
And they're sort of like, what do you mean? And I'm like, well, you've got this, you don't come from a technical background and you instantly come up with this budget for what you want to do.
Yeah.
But naturally, it's about the outcome. So
you come in and you spend all this money, $5,000 on a website, and then you've got no money for marketing, no money for further tests, no money for further improvements. You're just spending it for the sake of spending it, really.
And so you focus on, investing money into the project, because that's almost like collateral you're putting in, and like, oh, if I put this much in, that means it's going to mean that. It doesn't mean anything. Yeah. You can create the best looking website in the world, but if it doesn't function and you're not meeting the customer's needs, nothing's going to happen.
Yeah.
So I would say to people, what's one of the key sort of principles or laws about digital marketing is about using brain power, not wallet power. Yeah. And so what can I do?
Doing it.
Yeah, because I honestly believe that this digital space is an open playing field. You can create a website and you can see a tremendous result in a short amount of time, and there's a laundry list of stories that's happened. But the idea that you need to invest a huge amount of money to get started just isn't the case.
So, a basic WordPress site,
almost point and click, cut and paste, template website, because when people say template, they go, oh, there's a negative thing. It's like, there are hundreds of thousands of templates, and no one knows the difference between template 1 and template 52. No one really knows the difference. So that's the
differences between, a schnitzel sandwich. You don't really know that many differences as long as it's got the schnitzel in there and the bread. Yeah. At the end of the day, it's a sandwich. It's delivering on the requirements of the customer at the end of the day.
And so I think it really follows on from my first statement of focusing on progress, not perfection, because the internal dialogue of make it perfect pushes you up that staircase of, oh, I'll spend $5,000 on this and I'll do this and I'll do that, and this budget blows out and you basically spend all this money without testing it. So when someone says to me, Josh, I've got $5,000 to spend on a website, always think to yourself, okay, cool, what would you do if you only had $1,000 or $500 or whatever?
10% of your budget.
Yeah. And so just create this minimum viable product that people can test and people can push out into the world, and then you get that real feedback, and then you can make actual informed changes, informed decisions, not just changes, oh cool, you know what, I think red's a cooler colour, or I think the logo looks better, or just all this stuff that's on your side of the fence, not theirs. So tip number 1 is focus on progress, not perfection. Tip number 2 is basically,
use your brain, not your wallet.
Use your brain, not your wallet. And the third tip I would say to everyone is that understand and sort of embrace into your psyche the rule of 3%. And the rule of 3% is this, that there's a famous case study of a department store in the US called Macy's, and they basically put an ad for a management position up in the newspaper, and the employment union started blowing up saying, oh, why are you offering jobs to people outside the company, and this is ridiculous and all this stuff. So I said, okay, cool, we'll offer this management role with good money and good benefits and all this sort of stuff to all the actual current employees. So a company-wide email and physical letter was sent to every single employee, thousands and thousands of people. And you can guess what the percentage rate of people, not people who got the job, people who just applied for the job. People who actually applied for that huge opportunity is only 3% of people actually applied. So that's your competition. So you're sitting there in your home, you think, oh, it's too big, the market's saturated, I can't do it. Your competition is the 3% of people who actually get up in the morning and do something. 3% of people who actually go to the gym at 5 o'clock in the morning. 3% of people who actually go to the seminars, read the books, work on themselves.
3% of people will write a comment on a website.
Yeah, it's like 3% of people are actually doing stuff. So that's your competition. So you have this thing in your mind where it's me against the world, but it's not. It's you against 3% of people.
That's awesome. That's awesome, Josh.
Just realize that this sounds, I know I think this is oversimplified, but if you physically launch a website, a one-page website with your product or service or whatever it is, and you actually push it out into the world, you're already better than 97% of people.
Yeah.
Like you're in that 3%. You've actually done something. So people think the formula to getting this done is that, formula for digital marketing success, for most people think, it's, ready, aim, but it's not. It's ready, aim, fire.
Yeah.
You have to take action. You have to push it out there. And if you're willing to take action and willing to test things and become part of that 3% of people who actually do something, that's where all the magic is.
That's awesome. So, Josh, I guess, for you personally, what's up next? Like, what are you getting into?
I'm going to continue to basically build websites and invest in digital spaces. I'm going to continue, producing my own content, and I'm going to continue to help people basically, make more money from their website. So my core skill set is basically turning clicks into customers, and that's what I've sort of been obsessed with for, I can't even remember how long now, but a long time.
Yeah.
But the key takeaway is that I'm not from a technical background.
Yeah.
I'm just a guy who wants to learn, has a hunger for getting better, and is just willing to take the always be a student mentality, just always be willing to learn and test and be willing to fail and make tweaks, and that's my mindset, and that's hopefully my 3 pieces of advice have been helpful to people.
Yeah.
Focus on progress, not perfection. Use brain power, not wallet power, and understand that only 3% of people are actually doing something. And if you actually do something and build something and put something out there, you're part of the 3% and you're already a success.
That's great. Jochy, thanks so much for coming in.
No worries.
And helping everyone with that amazing case study. Obviously, guys, tune in for the next video. Good luck with growing your internet business.